I'm ready for the app, whatever you are.
Yeah.
Plano discovered the people's ruling China to recognize uncontrolled right of workers to strike nationalist worker liberation in China. The strong family there's no legal right to strike in China. Fills the cultural restoration of China with the right to strike. Rights to collective bargaining. White workers go to strike for higher pay, better working conditions. The strike is not an end. It's not a part of the bargaining process. The collective bargaining process is not glorified workers, but not to go at all. Strike at all. China's workers want a system in which they can raise their demand and equal infrastructure negotiations. If workers can achieve their goals through peaceful collective bargaining, no longer there'll be fear. Strikes, right to strike, and liberate workers. They can empower them to engage in collective bargaining. Safe and knowledge that they are powerful weapons that can be deployed. Necessary labor relations will be enhanced. Benefit employers concerned about high worker turnover and the loss of production through strikes. The advantage of the economy. Lack of Chinese right to strike devastates collective bargaining. That's proven. 17. Collective bargaining given the country's severe labor problems. Challenges to institutionalizing collective bargaining in China have been profound. Fundamental as right to strike. Capital is reason to take workers seriously without labor possessing some coercive power. Collective bargaining in China is woefully inadequate. That skills to restrict single enterprise formula like actual bargaining, really request enforcement is non-existent. The working class needs more power. Any credible unionist power is undercut by detention of labor activists. That's Merkley and McGovern 13. Authorities detain labor representative for protesting competing labor protests illustrate challenges Chinese workers face engaging in collective bargaining, detained for disrupting the social order workers, let alone other struggle to defend the right of workers' rights. Detention about the president cause workers striking in the future to face the risk of prosecution, testify social contradiction and influence social harmony. Government officials continue to approach labor disputes to protect and maintaining social stability, which places workers at a marked disadvantage. Lack of clear divine legal protection makes them susceptible to retaliation. The right to strike and rebalance China's economy. That's Roberts. Said road regulation could give China could give Chinese labor the ultimate bargaining tool. An officially sanctioned right to strike. Chinese workers union with little power for formalizing workers' right to strike could change China's goals of rebalancing the economy. New emphasis on how to reduce wage gap and get consumer discount are not easy unless workers have more bargaining power. Enhance union labor reform is key to sustain Chinese economic growth. That's talk. 28 minutes trying to go the world remains accommodating government. The individual household capture 40% inequality toward Chinese workers on can spend as much surplus to the rest of the world. Leads to some industrial slavery indebtedness. Could domestic consumption be a driver of growth? Crackdowns begin labor NGOs and shutdown for worker laws are poorly implemented. China would experience reduced inequality and greater domestic consumption if independent trade needs were allowed to flourish. China's economy is on the brink of collapse, only solving poverty can reverse it. That's 11% 24 times. The economy teetering on the brink of disaster. Cancel public operating fire tech companies. Shut down education and sense is running up people. China's ability to borrow goods way out of current economic crisis for decades with a lot of cheap labor around the country needs to people to actually use and buy pay for everything that's been built. Local China's population lacks the income needed to shift the economy. China's growth drop would depress economies worldwide. Asia, South Korea, and Taiwan. If China's growth evaporates, we risk the collapse of the global economic order. Chinese economic decline leads to all-out war specifically over Taiwan. That's Just 18. National security issues arise when the political and value recession in China is psychologically impaired. Combined with tension to political instability, set off intense competition between corporate fashion, sea military adventurers, and civil war focused on Taiwan leadership, which miscalculated Japan and the United States. Taiwan goes nuclear. That's Thomas. 18 military confrontation from China's campaign against Taiwan no longer seems implausible. China nuclear weapons intermingle with conventional forces, making it difficult to attack them without attacking the other conventional forces, which generate pressure to escalate U.S. operations and endanger nuclear forces. Beijing might conclude nuclear escalation was viable. The most worrisome flashpoint is Taiwan. Taiwan relations access the United States will consider any effort to determine the future of Taiwan by any peaceful nation by vocabulary markets that touch the peace and security of the Western Pacific area and give great concern to the United States-U.S. strategy would likely endanger nuclear arsenal. Where China development of China's assumptions about U.S. intelligence, nuclear causation, outweighs everything else. It's PND 16. Even the outside knowledge is still making the world on how it will lose the global family lasting for decades. Nuclear work nuclear winter resulting in structural destruction. Altogether work smoking little the ice, ultra radiation, so it's pretty agricultural production, which is climate 20% causes the death of all humans and all their species. Nuclear weapons use threat to human survival. The media say that even climate change is not a favor. The same is specified spectacle being will specify heating active military before one, pleasure, pain, truly value. This valid below 18, pleasure on awards, reach more particular similar wording, the pleasure plus 5 days of heating in the future, retiring work with their normal, or yes, a world evolutionary competition, life, food, debate, and offspring, rewarding many bridges, rewarding pleasure, produce the opposite, lightning, some purpose, and bark regions, and limit system, different space, social pleasure, and research, the neural truths, and much more concepts, neurology, debate, more developed in human series, possible productive, giving equals or equals to zero words that are used away, two only natural moral, observable, fast, this pop now, 17 not to be faced, the more black and immediate different physical, knowledge, spent, space, and form, mediated, physical, possible, law, sense, economy, media, system, for black and includes physical, then start of ideology, implications, and the death of the world as we know it destroys our ability to perceive and interact with us, factor morality, and proceedings. We feel like because we fundamentally know that pleasure is painted by 3 lessons. Some great of conditional life, the cool of the rules, aspects being able to engage in ethical evaluation of the concept of crisis. 4 expect every policy benefits on form, also makes sacrifice. Freeze action, B states like learning, testing, policy, collective action. A spectrum first, different actions, different ethical standing, linked to confidence, no action skip 5 and 6 and 7. Or 7 notes that force that if we force the opponents to order a liberation should happen, so we intended to happen, go down to extinction outweighs 1 foreclosed beauty for we can reverse it, inverse the reversal 2 it turns over not that even like couple things for asking food all 7 3 4 love again love because as an ethical running with ethics toward people for to take back message jaded way to calculate effects of research ethical power all into more which interpretation will to preserve the world to keep debating about it under one is today, if it be each other, one and two short making the time short of an hour 6 minutes, they could provide an active meeting interest, all the 200 jobs after all playing defense after first much larger lost 1 for the 1 1 7 the 1 CTB for meeting child will be able to more leads actually take a work. There is a focus with the hadith and remote obligation to be triple and say there are 1 2 multiple element all you can see for part of that was about the negation they're negating requires complete absence of resistance obligation to get it not the exists now the method scenario analysis of Bible it's form 16 scenario analysis works with the depiction of possible futures in the world when they are deriving consequences that can lead to few predicted follow and all process with the end of 2014 and constituted political terms constrained by cognitive bias and errors helping individuals make it universal moves and thinking scenario, supplements and management in the future could be different than manner. Highlights below policy changes the opportunity by limiting the significance of prolonged opportunity scenario analysis to identify the gaps in the understanding of the transmission scenario, modify the variables and situation to analyze the effects. I will send these cards out. Fears of Chinese rise are rooted in a white Western colonial narrative that Sing 18 U.S. rhetoric shows China calls to mind the racist yellow peril offense with China's political orientation, administrative rights, subjugation of foreign powers, the ancient imperialist struggle for national liberation. China is always identified as part of the global South collective struggle against imperialism, unlike the United States, which engaged in destructive foreign intervention. China buys by non-interference. China's relations have come to Washington to accuse China of being an imperial power rather than behaving predatory. China provides funding to African borrowers and supports Latin American struggle against imperialism. Our narrative around China's rise ruptures Western understandings of IR. That's Cho and Pong. Huang 20. Mainstream IR scholarship reflects the interests of West by encouraging college to school non-Western systems with solid protect from Western hegemony. The Western knowledge of China's rise less about the China really full affection of Western intelligent imagination, quest for identity, China's spread shape to Western understanding, acceptation to translate itself from the other good versus evil, that and provides moral basis for conquest. Reject sweeping claims about China IR. That's Weaver and Buzon 20. Problems possibilities marginalized by inward-looking kids, scholastic exercise protecting the majority of IR anti-black. Or actually, that's fine. I will send those. Or just 2 cards.
And then you didn't read 5 and 6 on Fairman?
I didn't read 5 and 6. I didn't read like 5. I read 7, and I didn't read. So I read 5 and 6 except for 7. So I didn't read 5 and 6 except for 7. So I read No One's on Foresight, but I didn't read.
So you didn't read 5 and 6?
Yeah, but I didn't read 7 to Extinction either. But I read Extinction. Yeah, that was confusing.
So you didn't read the entire subject?
Yeah, or the index field stuff, like that some models.
Scenario planning, what is that?
Sort of policy action.
Okay, what type of arguments would not be scenario planning?
I think arguments about representation, arguments that don't derive from the consequences of the plan, arguments that don't use a comparative worlds framework, arguments that don't contest the trade-off of the affirmative versus the negative.
What are all the independent reasons to go after besides winning, extinction, and this, and then the triggers? You can't predict stuff.
No, there's no triggers. It's just that.
Oh, it's just what?
It's just extinction elements. Or, it's just
Oh.
There's no tricks. Yeah, no. I'm gonna go for the tricks.
What's neutrality?
In the permissibility presumption stuff.
Yeah. Why can't we justify drinking water?
Because the process of drinking water is morally neutral. It's not morally good or bad, but we wouldn't be able to justify
water
that.
keep us alive?
It could, but it could be unnecessary in some instances if you get water from other substances.
How long does it take to die from dehydration?
I can switch it over.
It's fine. Okay, so drinking water. The plan. What is worker liberation, and why does it make it so that they can bargain with the authoritarian government?
So we think voting affirmative means that Chinese workers have a right to strike without being fired, which creates collective bargaining, which allows them to.
Okay. Right now, if a worker in China strikes,
they get sent to jail a lot.
Okay. So how does the app change that?
So they can't get sent to jail for striking.
So what does happen to them? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. What type of government is China?
In what sense? What do they mean?
Democracy, authoritarianism, or actually, no, it's fine. Here's the Chinese rise rooted in white Western colonial narratives. Why?
So we always sort of perceive the East or China as this sort of bad thing in this fight between good and evil of the West and the East. A lot of the time, China is actually just helping other countries via their rise, i.e. BRI, which sort of gives African.
What's the BRI?
So the Belt and countries. It sort of helps them economically, and they don't use it to spread Chinese beliefs, so it's not good.
Trivial, actually, negation theory, what does that mean? Like, why do we need to deny the entirety of that? Or, like, what does that require? Like, how are we supposed to win?
Like, permissive and presumption are only relevant insofar as there's no offense, right? So.
Okay.
Maybe?
Sorry?
How many?
Two at least. Order on case is the underview, underview, framing, or actually not framing, just the underview and then
Cool. I've got the doc. I'm good whenever.
yes. First off, interpretation that for doing not having purpose given government saying indefinite article of the site just government the rest means you have to prove the rest of the transible not in particular instance see an indefinite article theory to refer to something else specific matter refer to any generic by using any of the articles to be weak and great. Honey job the indefinite verb refers to all members of that class that to expect China stairs which is in what I countered just by from arbitrarily doing words in resolutions executive government corporation because the app is no longer brought by resolution pending for jurisdiction just to have the jurisdiction after there was no legitimate app second limits is over 150 plus governments in the world excludes limits and there are a ton of independent app plus section in combinations of all the different advantages in different political scenarios like Ecuador and Cuba, Barbuda, the Holy See, the state of Palo, all with less than 100,000 people killed by carbon debatability listeners. So this has applied to every active fairness because if there's infinite lists for the object to protect about the object for jobs to be deterred future resigner, counter interest reasonability is arbitrary message and random everything. A lot of people usually want for being fair debates will be forced to go to theory which kills substance. If they want to check abuse or cease, the theory is show which has negative first after 7 versus selective priorities. More magazines is predetermined, but any instance out which NC strat which affects the entire round second off. Capitalism mass violence never looked into the role about saying there was the best organizational tax exploiting anything worlds and dire state capitalists for every common price that leads to the beginning of the same government to negative. Fascists are such abuse and the most marginalized ever whole country literature. It's philosophy of the new revolutionary movement has never been more clear people realize capitalism. And imperialism and economy must unite for better for we know with tax to unite our mass don't want to be the one. Back up with that same question of Marx's epistemology, the possibility of revolution must possibility that French word to check something is recognize this is the energy that drives class struggle into containment, rendering the right conditional. Covenant Best 19, the function of law would be contained by this striking says one of those organized before this value saying a right strike is the best amount the only way to certain within the law of violence and class strike is proletarian general strike because saying the right strike is guaranteed and actually structures but the state right no violent action state legislative right strike to make class struggle within the conditions of the words have good reason strikes is systematically allowed employers would do more to be seen as being a right granted by the state probably protest a lack of sufficient rationale to avoid recognizing the violence of given social economic situation the revolution strike and strike the community revolt against laws of vote and actually join the party dual power organizing is the only path to revolutionary change that's one thing the world is different we need to be electoralism dual power situation mechanism work as the studies provide services to republic and the co-proving socialists could provide for different reasons they would help us with the capital state whatever and alternative the master already below the only party who never promised successfully gains support of the workers like there's one more left on credit to what makes you think reforms the only way the Panthers said they should have been socialists in New York built the IDU to provide health care tests not to like representative our tests to serve the people fellow socialists no key government tendencies that the PSL that the people right to collect to see not to resist non-gentrification reject opportunities and rolling around power directly in the hands of social movement on the under first permissibility of presumption gay or more statements are more often false introductions that can prove something false in an infinite number of ways which outweighs in probability B is that moral policy require positive justification because being a document which outweighs on P before being a document which outweighs on here C that means the absence of proven obligations that definition of legitimate which is the lack of the obligation dates even under the rule of values arguments it negates as it requires proving this like the statement true however my arguments deny the ability to prove the statement true also I'll just read this no one argued the 2 hour has to overcome substance and overcome theories and together Plano versus the 3-minute prayer B is that the response may counter when we use so 1 hour 3 necessitates the original justifies reasonability and 3 hour C that allows one to apply in the 1 hour this use straw disincentivized class which is B that has connotations since to enforce me to hedge against multiple 2 hour clocks on the last cards on sin we don't see them as weak if anything turn because we like strong and not like it's not a form of like white fear on the AC power. British China time is now worse depletion of demographics and master brand the Buckley 924 to 2,000 China was nearly self-sufficient, securing friendly relations since our drivers of China was turned around entirely China's running over borders, importing more energy for than any other nation, over costly or democratic consequences devastating beauty slip after totalitarian machine. This reflects economic liberalization that the power development threat and hard to resume, which is starting to accumulate compounding the soil of a threatening fast-growing economy. Mature China losing steam, spending more to reduce less and massive agriculture and productivity close to China's current pace, separate on China or Chinese growth, causing massive species extinction in China. It's a global biodiversity, hotspot extinction, nickel, nitrogen, biodiversity rates 8th in the world. China also has ancient species because of protection from historic geological events, which is incomparable. Not only do many plants or animals on which humans survival dependent originating in China, but also maintains a large number of relative rapid overseas ability to preserve and development and population growth concerns friendly pressure and Chinese economic growth is key greenhouse gas emissions and collapse the environment should help. Sustainability subordinating with growth is still to accelerate environmental deterioration, including air pollution, water pollution, desertification, deforestation, poverty, loss, soil erosion, carbon losses, and GHG emissions, economic consequences, visibility, impacts, extinction. Climb 14. As warming approaches 2 degrees is non-linear, tipping elements were on track for a warm mark by heat waves, declining fuel loss because in the fuel rises and certain adaptations possible to heat would cost stable costs to suffer dramatic loss in demand, resurging hurricanes of operations, which is left to water extinction. Disease analysts think that we're heading for more than 4 degrees. 6 degrees will have catastrophic implications like release of methane from across climate change become an existential crisis. Asian economic growth pushes China to a point of no return. Continued pollution will collapse the CCP spark war between Russia and China that breaks down stability and relations with East Asia that makes their impacts inevitable. Not develop 6 China's environments edging closer with each passing new trends. Trends indicate pollution will worsen. Consumers are expected to purchase automobiles. Countries stealing to double the GDP. It's leading to greater political mobilization, which China from China to run from citizens who suffer the CCP and North Vietnam as a crime with defense support, linking to the democracy movements and demonstrations are more difficult to obtain. And strong CCP sold countries to land stable teach are still and a history of violent conflict. Environmental and democracy movements in the United and Eastern Europe is conceivable this way by under my TCP when water shortage is still strong with divisions in the party and social retreat, accompanied by transitional violence, nationalism, surrounding safety solutions, rally point include over paths of cooperation, Russian politicians and allege China's territorial landscaping, some truth the method by which China may annex that territory would result in forced war between 2 powerful nuclear nations on Taiwan. Return. Growth means are more likely. Jones of 7 China's modernized XBMs and developing jet fighters and nuclear submarines equipment has been deployed to prevent Taiwanese independence to space powers and locations for the U.S. and space capabilities playing integral of all military operations, strong economic growth and leadership can lead China to translate its economic weighting to military might produce national part of dictators of foreign security. This includes forcing Taiwan and reunification the U.S. will likely shift from engaging China for company downturn due to military modernization that caused the last shot. Most likely scenario for Chinese economy to grow and short of become collapse. China's power could grow faster than any other country. This cement China's position as the dominant power in Asian military expenditure. We're the second largest China, leading more survival nuclear force. Growth unable to dominate maritime purchase predictions predicated on strong continuing growth of the Chinese economy. No escalation. The U.S. will intervene for non-market autonomy. State of bonus 16 Taiwanese diversion of middle ground will result in America. Diplomatic recognition of the U.S. global hegemon with massive instability of Asia Pacific. The U.S. may sell weapons, but it's not about to start World War III over Taiwanese sovereignty and empirics and geography. John 17. If the U.S. didn't intervene when Russia entered China over Taiwan, China's geographical advantage. China's the largest trading partner with the U.S. economic benefits. Trump's geopolitical considerations. People cannot find Taiwan and couldn't even care less about a remote island. The West loves certain myths, resent loss of life, nuclear Holocaust risks, no island on. The U.S. will not go into war over Taiwan. I didn't read the last card. Sorry.
Let me just take that out. You didn't read what?
I didn't read it yet. Sorry, I thought I said what.
Okay, ready? The Jiang evidence is talking about Crimea. Why does this apply to a war over Taiwan?
It just proves that Russia or the U.S. didn't intervene when Russia annexed Crimea, so there's no reason they would for another country that's in a similar position.
Why?
And then it also gives more warrants that's specific to China, economic benefits, how they're because of interdependence, they're still intertwined with each other.
Let's talk about this. Okay, so the link. Can you explain?
Yeah, it's basically saying that whenever you affirm the right to strike, you're saying that the Chinese government should recognize that they have the right to strike. But in doing that, you basically strengthen it in proving that there is a capitalist containment by saying the government has power over the people, which is inherently.
So So using the government to help the people is bad because it
Or-
shows that the government has control.
It's not helping the people.
Why not?
Like all of our impact trends.
Oh, sure. So if I win the case, then assuming I win my advantage,
Like you're still linking cap. We're just saying like
but
we
how?
create capitalism by using the state to
Is
recognize.
doing anything with the state creates capitalism?
Specifically this because it like is
Why?
about workers striking. There's many policy actions.
Why is
that
workers
specifically
striking capitalist? Wouldn't that be more on-capitalist?
Not if it's like the state specifically recognizing that they have a right to strike. Because whenever you have that, it's never going to be truly unconditional unless you overthrow capitalism. You're saying like cap is a pre.
Why?
Okay, because if you go against the state, like there's still going to be some stuff. Like they're going to like at least throw you in jail if you create like mass violence.
So it's
strikes.
just a debate about what our interpretation of fiat is. Like if I fiat an unconditional right to strike, are you just saying that I cannot fiat that?
We're saying that you can't have an unconditional right to strike without overthrowing capitalism first. But if you that's not that.
Okay, the alternative, join the party, what does that look like? One, what do the workers in China that we've isolated look like in the world of the alternative? Is it a floating pig? What's the stat?
Not a floating pig, it's condo.
And then the first question.
What's the first question?
What do Chinese workers that don't have rights look like in the world of the alternative?
They just like organize against the government
And then what?
and then overthrow it.
They overthrow the government.
Mm-hmm.
How?
Like they just rally together and just like
They just rally?
like the
Versus
Escalante card is
Chinese drones,
the Escalante card
military forces.
is specifically about dual power, which is where like you have these workers coming together, but then you also have them creating new organizations. For example, Black Panthers Party, stuff like that. So they create those organizations, and through that they like become stronger in our.
And then what?
Sorry.
And then what? Well, how does that feel like create those organizations?
They like become stronger.
And then what?
They'll have the power to overthrow the government
They
eventually.
just like create drones and missiles.
Oh, they could do that. They,
Is your evidence?
Black Panthers want to. I mean, this, like the evidence talks about like early socialists. Like it gives
I don't think
specific
it's
examples.
We do 5 minutes. I'm gonna do 5.
Yeah, that's fine.
You fine?
Yeah.
No one ever is draw the team. The case.
Fatigue case.
Strong. Can you explain the dibs evidence?
It's basically saying that like if we don't have an economic collapse right now, China will become even stronger so that when they do eventually collapse, it'll be way worse. Like right now it's still survivable, but like as they become stronger and stronger, we read a piece of evidence that was the first card. It says it's like random exactly. It's saying that they will eventually collapse. It's just the collapse should be right now.
Where's the F card?
The K, it's the first card.
Oh. So what's the impact? Oh, climate. Sorry. So the link is the
The link is basically the government, or like the K, right?
So in the world of there's multiple organizations. Who listens to who?
I mean, they're all together. Like, they're all
They're all
working on this party. For example, like the PSL and Black Panthers, they're not against each other. Like, their whole goal is just.
Okay, 4-3. There's two cards I don't know if I'll get to. I'll send the T stuff for sure. The ones I'm not sure about, I'm not going to send because I don't want to stop to do it. So I'll just send them afterwards. Sorry.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
You get them?
So we're.
T, advantage. Okay.
Wait, sorry, Dylan. I just got an email from Preston who's running CAP, and they're asking if you clicked.
Oh yeah, I just did it.
Wait, T advantage K. Is that what it is?
No, yeah, that's it. Ready?
Yeah.
Confirmation plus specification that the event at a normal but a critical root of non-single laws being a single object in the sense that there's one incentive is usually you can't run wild. Prefer a class person with the reach with a different location, the right destructive regardless one implement of China's policy from the United States, the African choice, stable revenue, debate, source, education, practice, conversation, as a friend, just doing any debate be after no universal advantage, guys, R2 as an implemented interpreted differently, different countries means no advantage can be universal levels of debates, one that flips limits because they can get different picks like South Africa and the United States, which means the entire 18 times between the one area always quantifiability, the only measure of these two always plans, functional limits like strike guys, modeling that IR shows small businesses, and the media of ground or the pragmatics are persistent, A, constructiveness, A, based on a purpose of equal division, ground, long, linguistic perfection, B, collapse of pragmatics. No, 4, there, terms of mentally wrong, CCD, Walden doesn't say anything, and the upward intelligence flips R direction is infinite, regressive, and keeps trying to prove a higher thing, functional intersection generics like Biscon, restrictive, bad heresies, discovery, internal links, solvency, advocacy, etc. Solve all your arguments. Right now, China's an economic bubble that's dooming them, and they need Chinese. That'll cause war with Taiwan via division, wars, which will cause a drawn from the United States. That causes Taiwanese war between the United States and China, which goes nuclear and causes the radiation and famine, which kills everyone now who's on my station. All along with all their arguments. The 1.0, it doesn't assume our plan, it assumes horrible economic conditions. Insofar as our plan is fixing those economic conditions, it goes away. Second, the card can see that liberalization of the economy will solve. Read the evidence after the round and flips orthodox into 1 and T2. 1 workers subscribe better policies like things like climate change, which means they often solve the arguments. If there's a chance to strike against the government, then they can change those policies the government is doing. I mean, we have solvency and the link flows our direction. Second, the species are there's sort of different species around the world, so China's not really key to biodiversity in general. The third argument, 2020, it's from 2012 and doesn't assume the BRI and the new green energy initiatives by China. They're sort of building new green energy in these regions in Africa and sort of South Europe and other places in China where they're fixing these things. 1 and T4, war turns, war meaning it flips the other way because it destroys things like resource wars, which makes things worse, and creates radiation, which destroys things like plants and animals that could survive warming. 2, adaptation disruptive technology can solve 5, or the AT5, their allies with us in the first state, they're not going to do it. Second, unrest is solved by the right to strike because they're not going to be unrest. 1, they're going to be happy with the government. 3, the Chinese can't do global trade because of the bubble that we've isolated against Taiwan War 1. The growth is inevitable in this sense, but it's not true after the affirmative. Second, no, it can be stopped by making them economically liberalized in the first. 6, going to burst that bubble that they're sort of growing and building only military things by because the people can spend, so they only force all their things to go to the military, meaning we lower the amount of military and the growth argument flips our direction. 3, decline would also do it, meaning it's not you can have regardless. The Dibs evidence 1 collapse can sort of happen by the United States. Second, it assumes that they do collapse in the first place, but there's no reason why that'd be true as far as we're winning our argument. 3, it collapses now because of mass wars and tensions in the first place, and there's no articulation why the collapse sort of now would be so much better than a collapse later. The Babin's evidence. 1, Taiwanese relations access that the United States will take it as an attack on themselves. Second, economic benefits of the Taiwanese Strait will be the other way. 3, the United States want to protect their neighbors in the region. The Jiang evidence. Crimea is different. There's economic benefits that are not present in China. They're present in Taiwan Strait, so it flips the other direction. The K role of us with the role of us with the consequence of anything else. 6, since AC almost was a fair mitigation evaluate the argumentation of the K. Second, we get clash about the K, which is better for your scholarship. 6, outweighs from the Taiwan war. Towards winning our advantages. Policy way we're going to do. Yes, they cause extinction, but we outweigh in different ways. 1, time for Taiwanese war happens immediately. Climate change takes tons of time, which is that we control the internal like Taiwan. The time for definitely outweighs because it's a question of it doesn't matter how bad something is going to be, it's going to happen in a million years, because that we outweigh on a policy. Second, probability, Taiwanese war and collapse over China are much more likely than warming causes extinction. Things like adaptation and possibility. 3, is immediacy and chance of solvency means it flips the other way. The link debate. 1, things doing things can always be about the United States. The sort of state or China can sort of help these people, even if it's even if the form is sort of subduing to the capitalist system, they're still helping them become less capitalist in the first place, meaning it still flows our direction. Here is the link turn. I'm probably going to explain in the 2 are we are allowing for unionization and the worker strike, which destroys things like capitalism because it destroys unfair wages, and they're sort of using as people of labor instead of people as people in themselves, meaning it definitely flips the other way. It can give people the right and recognizes them just as that. Their argument is just a silly fiat debate about how we can't make it unconditional. We are fiating unconditional right to strike, meaning China will not be able to retaliate. 3rd or 4th, it's a double turn of the alternative. Even if communist countries sort of listen to the government in the first place, so they'll fight and they will do permutation, do both permutation, do the all, and then I'll read those 2 cards. The state responsibility, or actually I'll read this card first. Those overwhelming turn affirmative solvency. That's Degore. 16. What taxes worse to hear about a world of America's opposition against the state that if you talk about rallies, which is the false world left and world F 15 drugs and cluster problems, the anti-52 attack lowers the odds of armed revolution to 0. This is fatalism. Those are little alternative political options. Seriously, none of us are going to take Americans in the air. And then I say that the military weapons are hard. How should we condone? Second, it also is just applied to double turn all the arguments because some organization is going to be in charge of the others, so the people are still going to be listening to some person in charge. So it still links to their capitalist ideology.
I'll start 5 minutes.
Yep. I'll send a card.
Okay. It was just like debate, right?
Yeah.
Okay. What was the stuff about like the top of the game that's like clash about the K? Or it was just the rule of stuff.
Allowing us to weigh the case allows us to clash with K better, because we can use all of our arguments, which is best for critical education, which K do not would probably say.
T.
You want the card of it, don't? I know, I'm pretty sure I already know this card. I'll send it in the text though. So I just
Yeah, that's fine.
or also I'll send the tag of the other card because this tag is
On the on the link today on cap, it said like explain into why are there actually not.
Here's that I sent a second email that also has like a tag. Probably makes more sense.
What was the answer to Taiwan War besides like China and Russia, or like one of our cards like doesn't take into account something, like John doesn't take into account something? Or is that the
Wait, so I read 4 reasons why why the U.S. does intervene,
okay?
and then I said that
Or can you like
GA. You want me to go over them?
sure?
Yeah. 1, Taiwan Strait has economic benefits that the United States needs to keep. 2nd, the United States would intervene to protect democratic neighbors in the region, because if China makes a norm of sort of usurping countries and making them part of the CCP, they can do that to other regions. The United States would have to intervene. 3rd is the Taiwan Relations Act, which I highlighted in the card, that says that there is an agreement in place with the United States and Taiwan that if any act of China is seen as an act of war, the United States will get involved, which means the foreign policy they have in place literally says that we are correct.
Okay. from like the Soviet Union, like when Russia declined, and stuff like from Crimea and stuff like that. And it's also it gives specific empirics, which will go to on the case page. They say they don't weigh our probability, but no, we don't, because we have empirics. They don't have any empirics because China has never fully collapsed before. But on the other hand, Russia has definitely collapsed before. On the other hand, Russia has collapsed before, and the U.S. did not like intervene whenever like they get this Crimea on immediacy. Immediacy, that's the same as time frame. Like time frame and immediacy are the same thing. They say I was like, no new 2-hour explanation. You should be able to draw a line from the 1 AR to the 2 AR. If you can't, you shouldn't vote on it because you have a 1 AR to respond to it. You can just just make more arguments. I don't know, on the case page. Alright, in case we're going for the detail stuff, all our arguments are super bloopy. No need to write responses that was on the Capitol. They made like one line and ellipse to each of them, so all we have to do is like just one of the terms that you should get. We're gonna go for the detail stuff. The main thing on the case page is that China decline is inevitable, which is that China decline is inevitable, but like instead of like waiting until 100 years later for when they're inevitably going to decline, which is our first part, we should have them like collapse right now, so that because right now it's still survivable, but in 100 years it's not going to be survivable anymore because of greenhouse gas emissions and biodiversity, which are the terms we're going to go for. On the vector card, we're going for vector. Chinese growth cause massive species extinction. China, it's a global biodiversity hotspot which caused extinction. This card is really good. You should read it. It definitely assumes status quo because it's only from like 12 years ago, and 12 years ago China was still a really good government, but they didn't even make the argument. The only argument they made on this is that China was not key to biodiversity. But if you read the card, it's really good. It has specific empirics. We'll like go through them right now. Literally right now, China is ranked as 8th in the world for biodiversity and first in the northern hemisphere, which is a lot of people, and over 100,000 species of animals and nearly 33,000 plant species still exist. And they also still have ancient species and relics, which is like literally empirically proven by how like many different teas and herbs and medicines we get just from the Chinese biodiversity biody stuff in the first place. And also we're gonna biody is one reason. Actually, go back to brands really quickly. I was explaining directly. I'll go back to brands. We're gonna go over how they're importing more energy and food than every nation right now. Like as China gets more people and they're going into like overpopulation and stuff, they're getting less productivity because there's less and less people who can actually like make productivity because they already have so many people that the more people they have, like it just doesn't help them anymore, which is proven by why they have like the 1 and 2 child policy and stuff. But since they're like importing more energy and food from other nations, it means that economic growth is getting costlier because the more they import, the less they actually make because they're having to buy stuff from other countries. That's just how economics works. Whatever economics works. It's also like how water is becoming scarce, which is also another reason why they're gonna inevitably decline. Proves that China's gonna decline anyway. It's better that they decline, or we'll go to why it's better for them to decline right now. Actually, we'll go to decline. Chinese growth is bad because of biodiversity. Go to decline. Extinction through warming. As warming approaches 2 degrees, there's a risk of like non-linear tipping points, which means that like as soon as they reach the brink, which will be soon under the impact trends, will like have warming, which has a 100% risk of often, since the warming often was conceded. They say that war turns warming, but no, warming definitely turns war because the only reason why because of, for example, like resources, the reason why different countries go to war with each other. The reason why different countries go to war with each other is because they have less resources. For example, the trade war between the U.S. and China is because each of them had less and less resources in order to like import and export products, which means that they had to like go against each other on the other stuff. Okay. We'll just line by line we'll go to Jones actually. We're also gonna go for drones. That growth makes Taiwan more likely, which means that it turns the upstream because China is modernizing like intercontinental ballistic missiles, and like sooner or later they're gonna have like more and more ballistic missiles. And seeing how it is like so totalitarian now, we never know what China's after. We'll never know what China's gonna do, which means that like we should have them collapse right now before they get any stronger, and their downturn like causes stuff. We'll just like we'll also extend defense for why there's no Chinese Taiwan war. We're gonna go for the Babonas card because they don't answer. The only thing they answer is strong, but we're gonna go for Babonas because the Taiwanese like Declaration of Independence would not result in American diplomatic recognition because Taiwan is literally just like a random country, or not a random country, but it's like a small country in the middle of the ocean. We're never gonna we don't really or like the U.S. government doesn't really care that much. Like we're not gonna start World War III just to like get back Taiwan. Basically how this breaks down is we're kicking T, we're kicking CAP. They can't go for CAP because they literally said that they'll explain the link in the 2AR. Don't allow new 2AR explanation. You just hold the line from the 1AR to the 2AR. If you can't, you shouldn't vote for it. Or you shouldn't vote for it because there's no 3AR to respond. Allows them to get away with saying anything. Plus infinite views. On the case page, we're definitely winning on the case page. All of our responses were super bloopy. We went for DF explain this.
Okay, so I'm gonna just make this order as clear as possible. So it's gonna be on the advantage, but start on the end of the 2 and arm. Defense. Defense, then Jones. I'll figure it out during the speech. Starting on defense.
Just signpost.
Starting
Just
on
the case feature.
starting on Taiwan where it doesn't happen.
It's just the case feature.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Hold up 1 second. Beijing's economy is on the brink of collapse with debt, Chinese domestic investment and stimulation. The plan leads to negotiated ways that increase consumer spending. That's Robert's robust economy prevents war over Taiwan, gives nuclear draws in the United States because the United States has sort of hacks with Taiwan. That nuclear war causes extinction through things like famine, radiation, and blocking of the sun, preventing things like photosynthesis and the creation of war. Also, to just blast initially will also kill tons and tons of people. Look, this is how impact turn debates work. If I win that my impact causes extinction, none of their impact turns work because it means that the affirmative is still a good idea because it prevents extinction, right? Now, even if collapse, all I have, even if because it eliminates all of their sort of detailed arguments that collapse now would not be as bad as collapse later, because if I'm winning that collapse now causes extinction, there can not be anything that's worse in the end, which means if I win a risk that it causes extinction, or a risk of some sort of limited nuclear war between the United States and China, that is an automatic affirmative ballot because they've conceded or the evidence is a limited nuclear war even would cause extinction. I'll explain that here. Here are 4 reasons why Taiwan war happens. First, read the Talmud evidence after the round, or in the card before it if you don't believe me. First is that Taiwan war happens because of the economic benefits of the Taiwan Strait. They are extremely close to the United States economy and for controlling trade in the region and preventing China from becoming a greater power. Second is that the United States would intervene if China starts usurping other democratic nations, because again, then it creates a norm that China is able to just take these democratic nations and make them part of the CCP, which the United States is not going to have. Think about the Truman Doctrine and containment during World War II, the way that they went into the Vietnam War to prevent the spread of communism. It is the same idea that is going to be happening in the South China Sea and in the neighboring regions. Third is the Taiwan Relations Act. It is a definitive affirmative ballot here. Read the evidence. It specifically says the Taiwan Relations Act, federal law and federal policy about foreign policy, says that if an act against Taiwan is made by China, the United States will take it as an attack on them and will attack China, which means that there is definitive U.S. draw, and that draw causes conventional escalation, which threatens U.S. Chinese nuclear forces, which then causes Chinese first strike and American retaliation, which is a limited nuclear war, which definitively causes extinction. Along the line, their argument says that we're going for the bonus card. They say Taiwan is a random country. Look, this card is horrible. It literally just says, oh, it's a small country, no one cares. I've articulated 3 reasons why the United States definitely does care, that are pulled directly from our arguments. The U.S. definitely does care. This extension at the end was like super blippies and super. This card is just horrible. It's just like, oh, Taiwan's an island, so nobody cares about it. That's not how geopolitical sort of determinations of whether you're going to go to war or not happen. Now, I'll explain why nuclear war causes extinction. Actually, I already did that. It outweighs biology loss because it happens now. Our time frame winning is definitely sufficient. Your warming arguments and biology loss take a long time to occur because it takes time for animals to die. It takes time for global warming to happen. But nuclear war with Taiwan happens immediately. You conceded our time frame meta weighting that says it doesn't matter how bad an impact is going to be if it's not going to happen for 3 million years. We have to articulate what's going to happen. Now, if we win the extinction happen now, always their arguments. War does turn. Warming causes radiation, destroys the environment, and destroys biodiversity. Meaning war turns, controls the internal link of their arguments. Their resource wars argument is bad because people don't go to war because of resources. And if everybody has no resources, there's no need to go to war because they won't even gain anything from going to war with those people in the first place because they won't have the resources that they need. Look, the round is already over. I'm winning impact. I'm winning that it turns their arguments, but independently, they've conceded reasons why that Chinese growth right now doesn't. So sort of Chinese growing is not the reason why. Chinese growth is not what causes Taiwanese war. What causes Taiwanese war is Chinese failure, which the affirmative solves because it causes diversionary war. That is our internal link. They don't just go to war for random reasons. Otherwise, they would have done it after World War II when Taiwan became its own nation, which means that they are just wrong entirely. Affirmative China war happens. Nuclear war causes extinction. PND was conceded. The impact turn debate is over.